Brother Leroy,
Yes, sir.
you want me to play it again?
No, I didn't hear anything on this side, brother.
All right, we hear you.
Okay, no problem, brother.
All
I'm
right,
going
we're good.
straight
Hold
into.
on. Here we go again.
The seed was planted in a big uncultured land, planted by a black uncultured man.
And this
No
is
one
the
gave much
Wisdom
thought
Table.
to the black seed.
Wisdom Table. Coming to you from Grand Houses Community Radio in Harlem, USA, and simulcast from the James Weldon Johnson Houses in Harlem, USA. Two independent stations run by the residents of each NYCHA development, Grand Houses and the James Weldon Johnson Houses in East Harlem. I'm Brother Leroy, your co-host on the Wisdom Table, thankful to the Most High for blessing us with the opportunity to be with you and you to be with us. The program today does not reflect the views, attitudes, whims, or any other proclivities of the management of this NYCHA developments, nor do the views expressed here reflect on the resident councils. However, the program does reflect the research done by the participants in the program live and live in color and by Zoom. Once again, we thank the Most High for blessing us to be with you to do some good deeds today and to do some good deeds tomorrow. Try to do 10 good deeds a day. That's just as minor as saying, hey, how you doing? Calling someone that you haven't called before and saying, I've been thinking about you. Do you need anything, etc. Today's guest is Brother Charles Barron. He's involved in politics here in New York City. Today's date is March 19th, 2021. The information that you receive over this particular program today does impact on Black communities around the nation. We're going to cover a lot of things that are generalized and some things that are localized. Brother Charles Barron, thank you for joining us on the Wisdom Table.
Thank you, Brother Leroy. It's always an honor to be on your program because I know when we get through this segment, we'll be speaking truth to power. And that's what our people need to hear. Thank you very much for having me.
And what we're going after is the truth that may not be reflected in the daily papers here in New York. And that is understanding the nursing home scandal. That relates to COVID patients being placed into nursing homes in 2020. And the resultant deaths that occurred were, quote, quietly kept undercover, but information got out that folks didn't necessarily want to get out, and that's a national situation. However, what makes it even more important, the nursing home scandal, and understanding it from the vantage point of someone who operates in the legislature bank portion of the New York City, portion of New York City, pardon me, and that is Brother Charles Barron, Assemblyman Charles Barron, is the fact that the so-called sex scandals kind of pushed the nursing home scandal or situation back. So I'd like for you to comment on what you understand about the nursing home scandal that the public should know that they don't necessarily know, and maybe the coincidence of the sex scandal coming up at the same time. Floor is yours.
First of all, I think the public needs to understand that years ago, the majority of the nursing homes were run by not-for-profits. And now nearly 75% or 2/3 of them are run by for-profit corporations. And that's a problem because the for-profit corporations put money into their pockets more than they do into the operation of the nursing homes, of staffing and safety during this pandemic. So we have passed some recent legislation that would say that the for-profit nursing home owners would have to put 75 to 80% of their money back into the nursing home for operations to keep the place safe and operated in a manner that is healthy for our people in the nursing homes. Secondly, nursing homes shouldn't be a for-profit industry. It should be a humanitarian industry, particularly for our elders. You know, there's an African proverb that said, take care of those who've lost their teeth because they took care of you when you were teething. And when we put a priority on our elderly, and some of us don't even like to have our elderly in nursing homes. We take care of them at home as much as we can. But if they have to go to a nursing home, then that attention and care should be there. So this governor knew that the nursing homes were inadequate to take care of COVID patients that were already in the nursing home, or even to take care of the nursing home residents that were not even affected by the COVID virus. But instead, he decided that he would develop a policy that said, well, since an executive order, since the hospitals were overcrowded with COVID patients, he decided that he would send them to the nursing homes. Now, let's take that part of it first. To me, that was ridiculous. That was inhumane, insensitive. And although policies is hard to rise to a level of crime, to me, that was a crime. To me, it was unconscionable and totally unacceptable because the nursing homes weren't prepared to deal with any COVID patients, number one. And number two, and the most vulnerable people to the COVID virus is our elderly in nursing homes. They already have a myriad of illnesses that they're struggling with on their own without the COVID virus. So for the governor to do that when he had other optionals, to me is criminal. Here's some of his other options. We, Black people, brown people, were infected most, died most from this COVID environment, because we already have pre-existing political and economic conditions like poverty, unemployment, inadequate health care, indecent housing, and unhealthy food deserts in terms of healthy food. All of that pre-existing economic and political condition exists. And what those conditions do, they then create pre-existing health conditions just to respond to that racist, capitalistic, oppressive, political, and economic environment that produces poverty. So with that pre-existing political and economic condition, you get the pre-existing health conditions, heart diseases, upper respiratory diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, you name it, we got it. And then here comes the coronavirus. Who would be most vulnerable to that? Black and brown people in poor, economically oppressed communities by colonial capitalism is what's the real problem. And who is most vulnerable in those communities? Our elderly in the senior homes, nursing homes. So he had an opportunity to do this. Even though we suffered more, this state sent a ship with 1,000 beds on it to the white community. They didn't even use all the beds because they weren't as affected as we were. What does he do? He renovates the Javits Center in the white community, even though they were not affected or dying as much as we were. What does he do? They renovate Central Park, turn that into a medical facility in the white community, even though they weren't suffering as much as us. So since he already did that racist distribution of redressing this issue, why didn't you send them if the hospitals were crowded? Send them there. Why would you send them to nursing homes? Send them there. He did not. So people died. We heard estimates anywhere from 7,000 to 8,500 died in the nursing homes. Here's where more criminal behavior came, as far as I was concerned. So after he sends them there, we fight him, we push it back, and he finally stops doing that. But by that time, people were affected in the nursing homes. Some people died in the nursing home, 7,000 to 8,000. And then other people that were affected and were on their last dying breath, they were sent to the hospitals from the nursing homes. So those were really nursing home deaths that were sent to the hospital. He didn't count that. He covered that up. He meaning the governor, Andrew Cuomo. He covered that up. He didn't give those numbers, and the Attorney General's report said those numbers could be as much as 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, or maybe 15,000 died from the nursing homes, and he didn't report 7,000 or 8,000 of them. That's a crime. The Article 33 of the New York State Constitution that speaks to impeachment says if you willfully engage in mal or misconduct behavior in office, that rises to the level of impeachment. Not even about high crimes and misdemeanors like it is for the state or federal level. And even if it was, when you cover up thousands of deaths, that's a high crime. That's a misdemeanor. That's abuse of power. That's insanity for you to do something like that because of your political service, and you get busted. So all of that information is already available. So instead of calling for his resignation, which he said no to, we should be calling for his impeachment. And remember, an impeachment is a charge. An impeachment is not a conviction. Articles of impeachment can come from the state saying that we investigated this, investigating already took place on the nursing homes, and based upon that, there was misconduct, abuse of power, obstruction in place. Therefore, we want to send these articles of impeachment to the Senate. And what this state says in this Constitution, when the articles go, some say that he has to then not hold office until he's acquitted of these charges. So instead of everybody focusing on those deaths, here comes the sexual abuse allegations. And I believe all of that happened, but whether I believe it or not is irrelevant. Fact of the matter is that the AG is investigating that and not the nursing homes. So I was pitching a fit in the state assembly, and they said, would you sign a letter saying he should resign? I said, no. When y'all get me the impeachment letter, that's the one I'm going to sign. So I kept pushing for that and a few others till we pushed the leadership in the assembly, called Hasty and them, to say, all right, we're going to launch an investigation, and we'll call it an impeachment investigation. So we got them to do that, but we want to make sure that they're just not doing that to buy time, to divert attention away from other issues and focus on the investigation on the sexual harassment, which may or may not rise to impeachment level. But the nursing homes, death, the proof is there. The investigation was done. The report is there. He lied. He covered it up.
Question.
That's impeachable.
Question, and that relates to what is rumored, because I haven't seen figures. What is rumored that when this COVID pandemic started, there were bonuses or bounties on people being listed as dying from COVID, et cetera. And people could have died from a foot infection. It was labeled as COVID, according to what is understood out here in the street. In terms of placing those COVID patients in the nursing homes, has it been found or has it surfaced that there was some kind of monetary benefit to the nursing homes for that to happen?
I don't know about that, and be honest with you, my brother, could be, maybe not. Thousands of our people died. He covered that bad boy up, and he should be impeached. I don't know if there was a bounty on it. I don't think there's money involved in it. I cannot say that I know of that, but I know people died, and I know he's responsible for that, and he should be impeached.
The other point that came out of your explanation, what was going on in Albany, is that these moves, the investigation, the impeachment investigation or study, that just didn't happen on its own. That came as a result of agitation from people like yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had to put pressure. First, remember when the stuff first broke, they were talking about taking his emergency powers away from him. Remember that?
Right.
They weren't even talking about him resigning. They weren't even talking about the nursing home deaths. They weren't even talking about any sexual harassment allegations. It was, oh, we're going to do something. We're going to take his emergency powers away from him. And I said, well, you're the ones who gave it to him in the first place. Last year, I was telling you and a few others of us said we should not pass a budget during a pandemic that cuts $2.2 billion from Medicaid, poor people's access to health care. $2.2 billion was cut from that budget last year with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic Assembly. $400 million, Brother Leroy, was cut from the hospital budget during a pandemic. And this man got a nerve to write a book on his work during the pandemic. I should have made a citizen's arrest and arrested him then. There's no way that you cut $2.2 billion from Medicaid and $400 million from the hospitals, roll back the no cash bail legislation so that you give judges more jurisdiction to send us to jail, pretrial detainees to jail, and they caught the virus. It was almost like a death sentence. They rolled that back. All of this happened with a Democratic Senate and a Democratic Assembly. So he already had emergency powers. That's already there. They gave him extra emergency powers so he can do even more. So then we come back after he's in trouble and they're talking about, should we take his emergency powers away right now? Or should we let them sunset, run out by April 30th, and then put more strains on him to what he can and can't do with emergency power? Who the hell cares about that? I mean, that's a little something, something, but that's not the issue. This man should be impeached. Why weren't you talking about then impeachment? They weren't. But I was talking about impeachment then, impeachment last year, continue to talk about it. Then they said, all right, okay, that emergency, taking away his powers didn't work. They took it away and had some other convoluted stuff. And if you do it again, then you'll have to be monitored this way and you have to make reports to us and all of that crap. They did that. That wasn't enough because he kept getting worse. So they said, all right, he should resign. Then the Senate leader, majority leader says, if one more allegation and he should resign. She put herself in the corner, probably didn't really want to say that. And so she then says for the Senate, he should resign. And then our leader in the Senate says, I seriously think he should consider resigning if he can't lead effectively, weak. So that's around resignation. Then you get about 30, 40 people, everybody saying resign, resign, resign. And Chuck Schumer, he should resign, and all because of the sexual scandals, but nobody said that about the deaths in the nursing home. You know what I'm saying? How come you weren't saying he should resign then?
Exactly.
That's teachable stuff. So, that's how that was going to finally it's at a point now. He even said, the governor, let the investigation go. No, I shouldn't resign. Let me have the investigation, because the investigation ain't dealing with the nursing home. It's a diversionary tactic, even though those allegations are serious and should be taken seriously, should be investigated seriously, and so should the nursing homes. That he should be impeached for that and let him have his day in court in the Senate, which would conduct the trial. So that's what's going on. And then some people say, oh, we shouldn't be doing all of this stuff. We got to pay attention to the budget. Yeah, when they was impeaching Donald Trump, the Democrats said to the Republicans said to the Democrats, oh, why don't we take care of the budget and the economy? Y'all talking about impeaching him. And the Democrats said, we can chew gum and walk too. Well, you can do it. If you could do it then you can do it now too. You can chew gum and walk to and impeach the governor.
So this real quick, someone who studies history of the United States says, look, the guy needs a fair hearing. The person saying that is neither Republican nor Democrat, but they know the history of allegations against Black men who don't even get a couple of hours to get away or whatever, and they're lynched. Your response?
Well, first of all, he is getting a fair hearing, and that's what impeachment is. It's a charge. It's more than we get. So he's getting a fair hearing. I mean, he's done enough to already be put out of office, but he's getting a fair hearing. Okay. That's what impeachment is. And they should have done that a long time ago. This should have been before the Senate by now. Articles of impeachment should have been brought from the Assembly to the Senate and let the trial begin. He's innocent until proven otherwise, but let the trial begin. He's getting way more than what we ever get in America.
Okay, going to another piece, and that is the public schools. I want to touch on New York City public schools. What is your understanding of what really happened with the chancellor that just bailed out and the new person coming in?
Well, I had a very good relationship with this chancellor, and I was hoping that we would get some really positive things done. He was taking on racism within the school system. As a matter of fact, some of the whites who were higher up in office, he removed them and replaced them with Blacks and Latinos and Latinas. And they didn't like that. They took that. He was also under the strain of mayoral control, Mayor de Blasio. So he was strapped with mayoral control. We fought to try to get rid of the specialized high school tests in specialized high schools like Stuyvesant and Bronx High School assignment, Brooklyn Tech. Only less than 10% of our children go to New York State. Is a single test used to measure the aptitude of intellectual aptitude of students to get into a specialized high school. Everywhere else, they use teacher evaluation, teacher recommendations, principal recommendations. They use grade point average. They use student portfolios, independent projects. This is the only place in the country that uses a single test. And you have students who have like 90 averages, but on that particular day, they weren't able to pass the test. Or matter of fact, it's not about passing. They didn't get a higher grade to meet the bar to get in. These same students then wind up going to Yale, Harvard, Stanford University, some of the greatest universities in the country. So we said, get rid of the test and let's take a percentage from each middle school and allow for us to change that statistics where Black and brown children are 67, almost 70% of the 1.1 million students, and let's give them a chance to get in. If we do that for 3 years, instead of us being 7, 8, 9% of the specialized high school, including Stuyvesant, we would be 45%. But some Black leader said, I passed the test, so can you. And then had a low grade point average, and he passed the test. If we listened to you, I would not have been in Brooklyn Tech. I said, my brother, you shouldn't have been in Brooklyn Tech. There were people that had grade point averages that were better than you, worked harder than you. You just passed the test. They demonstrated that they were disciplined. So you took somebody's spot. And if you would have done our plan, what the chancellor was saying, that person who had a 90 grade point average and not you would have been in there. And if you would have been in there, you would have been in there with, he did that. He also was concerned about community control over schools. I was having some discussions with him on that. He was looking at and science labs and smart boards. And I was talking to him about getting African and African American history in the schools in my district. So I was planning to do some great things with him. He had over, he said 8, 9, 10, almost 11 deaths in his family due to COVID. And with all of this stuff happening, he never had a chance to properly grieve. And that was his reason. And I take him by his word. And we haven't met her yet, and we'll still be making our case for ending mayoral control of our schools. And let's get into, like we fought for, or like the battle was for in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, community control of our schools, community control over the police, community control over the healthcare delivery system, the hospitals. Every Black community where we constitute the majority, we should have control of land and every social and cultural institution that governs our lives. That's Black self-determination, that's Black power, and LEROY, because we need a revolution in America. We need to liberate Africa under socialism. African liberation and unification under socialism, I believe, is key to the liberation of African people in the fight for controlling the destiny of our Black communities. That was the #1 point in the 10-point program of the Black Panther Party. We want freedom. We want the power to control the destiny of our Black communities. We want control over all of the institutions that govern us in the Black communities. That was the first edict of the 10-point program.
National question, we've asked it before for you to give clarity for those of us in New York City and outside, and that is affordable housing. What did you learn that keeps affordable housing unaffordable for Black folks? And you came up with a formula for making it affordable. Please explain.
Well, I always tell people when they say we build an affordable housing, you then ask the question, affordable to who? And how are you defining affordability? And then that is key. And what is the key component for defining affordability is the area median income, the AMI, the area median income. You know, years ago, they used to do the average, the means. But when you do the average, you don't get a real good picture of what's going on in a group. So if you and I are in a group of 10 people, and all of us, 9 of us, our income is $100, that's 900. And then we have one person in there whose income is $2 million. When you do that average is gonna be pretty high. And it's not gonna reflect that 9 of us are only making $100. So what they did is they did the median, the halfway mark. Half of us are making $100 or less, and the other half is making 100 or more. And that gives you a better picture. So the area median income is what you use to determine affordability. So when a developer comes into my office, when I was in the city council for 12 years, and they said they're gonna build affordable housing in my community, I asked them, do you know what
You're tuned in to GHCR, Grant Houses Community Radio, the soul of the Upper West Side.
And we're speaking with Councilman sometime, Assemblyman.
Soon to be, I'm running for
Brother Charles Barron, his wife is a council person for the same district. And we're talking about affordable housing at this point in our interview. Please continue.
Yeah, so I was in the council for 12 years, so that's appropriate. So I say, how are you defining affordability? And they would say to me, HUD, the federal government defines affordability as 80% of the AMI, the area median income of New York. Well, today, the AMI of New York is 104,000. At that time, it was 86,000 for a family of three. So I said, do you know the area median income of New York? He wasn't sure. I said, well, at that time, it was 86,000. And he said, well, HUD said 80% of that is affordable for my community. Is that what you're saying? He said, yes. I said, do you know what 80% of 86 is? And I said, well, it's about 64,000. He said, you're about correct, 66,000 for a family of three. So you're building 120 units of housing that will be for people making 66,000 or above. Do you know my neighborhood AMI? He said, no. I said, guess what, sir? This meeting is terminated. You disrespected my intelligence. When you find out the AMI of my neighborhood, we'll reconvene another meeting. He said, oh, I could find that out right now. It took him 3 minutes to do that. I said, no, I made him wait 3 weeks. He came back in 3 weeks. I said, now what is the area median income of my beloved East New York or the 60th Assembly District? He said, 36,000 for a family of three. Right. So if my area median income is 36,000 for a family of three, and you're coming here with the affordable portion, that's not even the whole formula. If you're saying 50% of them will be at 80% of the AMI, that's not even affordable. That's 64,000. And the others will be at market. That ain't gonna happen. That's not happening. Let me tell you what's gonna happen. Oh, this project is dead. Because that's power. Remember, Brother Leroy, I always tell you, we got to get power. You know, in the 60s, we said black power. We did the black, but we didn't get the power.
Right.
So I said, the city council has the last say so on your project, and I'm the city council member. If I say no, my committee is going to support me, and this project is dead. So let me tell you what it's going to be. 80% of your units are going to be at 35 to 45% of the AMI, which is for those making 35 and 45,000. That's what most of your units are going to be, 80. And then we do have some people that make 60, 70, 80. We'll let the other 15, 20% of your units to be for those making 60, 70, 80,000. That's what it's going to be. He said, all right, no problem. And I said, now what about the rent? Well, for a studio, it'll be $1,100. For a 1-bedroom, it'll be about $1,500. For a 2-bedroom, it'll be $2,500. No, sir. This is what it's going to be. The studio is going to be $500 and change a month. A 1-bedroom is going to be $700 to $800, and a 2-bedroom is going to be $1,100. Well, if I do that, I can't build. I said, yes, you can. Go get your welfare. He said, welfare? I said, that's free money. When we get free money from the government, who owes us reparations anyway, y'all call it welfare. When you get free money, you call it subsidies. Well, either we're all on subsidies or we're all on welfare. So you're going to get subsidies to the tune of millions of dollars. So you will be making money. And what about your developer's fee? Well, yeah, how much you going to make as a developer's fee? Well, I'm only getting 6, 7%. No, you're going to make 6 to 10 million on this. But in this project, you're not making nowhere near that. And that's how we're going to keep it affordable. And that's what we built. We don't have a single unit, Brother Leroy, between my wife, the city council member now, and former assembly member, and me, the present assembly member and former city council member. Not one of the 12 to 15,000 units of housing that came into the 60th Assembly District and the 42nd Council District, not one of them is market, not one. And that's why, Brother Leroy, there's no gentrification in our district like it is in Harlem and Bedford-Stuyvesant and Crown Heights. When I came into office, my wife and I, 67% of the district was Black and about 16% Latino. It is now 72% Black and 20% Latino. We increased. And I didn't run them out, Leroy. the white population decreased. I had nothing to do with it, Leroy. They left on their own. They left on their own. But their population decreased from 6% down to 3.4%. Whereas in Bed-Stuy, it increased 500%. Harlem, 400%. Crown Heights, 200%. That's how you gentrify. When your politicians, when your elected officials, there ain't no white elected officials doing this. When Black elected officials allow for the 421A program to say that 80% is going to be market and 20% is going to be affordable, and that isn't being affordable to us, that's how you get gentrification. The gentry class is the elitist class. They telling you what they're going to do. Gentrification. We stopped it in our district.
Question regarding downtown Brooklyn and those tall buildings going up. Are there units of affordable housing in those units that the developer benefits from? Or, these are just market from your
Most of those
observation?
are market apartments, and there's no affordable to who. I mean, if those are market rate houses, excuse me. Those are market rate houses, not affordable to us. And then they have a lot of office buildings that they're building, which is also something that when you deregulate Wall Street and you don't have them under regulations and they can invest in anything they want, then they do office buildings and do other risky investments, and then wind up going broke and have to be bailed out by the government. Barack Obama bailed out Wall Street before he did Fulton Street and 125th Street. So they bail out them, and they want socialism when they're in trouble, government intervention and bailouts. They want capitalism when they're making money. Hey, no regulations, stay out of our business. So they conveniently become socialists and capitalists dependent upon their financial situation. So,
Right.
Brother Leroy, those tall buildings are not affordable for us. Those are market rate apartments.
Got it. In terms of going into politics and running for office, you're honest, not you. The person is honest. The person wants to do something for their community and they get into office. What are the things that begin to dilute their enthusiasm, frustrate them to the extent that they become just like the folks who preceded them, going along to get along?
It all depends how you get in office. Who got you in? Where'd you get your money from? What movement / organization did you have that got you in? If you have no organization or movement that got you in, then capitalism breeds individualism. So you become a victim of personal ambition, rugged individualism. My personal ambition over the liberation of my people. And if the machine got you in, you maintain loyalty to that machine, that Democratic Party machine that got you in. Brother Leroy, I'll take you back in history, which you're quite familiar with, in 1972, when the National Black Political Convention occurred in Gary, Indiana.
Right.
10,000 of us, Black socialists, communists, Black nationalists, revolutionary nationalists, reformists, revolutionaries, you name it, came together. Integrationists, separationists, everybody was there. And they wanted to build a Black independent political party. That didn't quite happen, but they had a powerful document that came out of there that talked about the failure, the betrayal of the two-party system and how we need to go real independent. Well, after that convention, when we came in there, was about 2,000, 3,000 elected officials. After that, 10 years later, it went up to 7,000. Now it's about 16,000 of us across the country. Even had a black president, a couple of black governors, and a bunch of black mayors and all of that. But they all are neoliberal, let me be nice, people of the Democratic Party. The black radicals went back to our revolutionary radical organizing, but we didn't do the electoral politics. Bobby Seale in 1973, the chairman of the Black Panther Party, ran for mayor of Oakland, did very good, got 40%. Elaine Brown ran for city council in Oakland. She got 35,000 votes, but they made sure it wasn't districts like we have now. It was at large, so that the whites would always have the majority of the population. So we never got in. Imamu Baraka, Leroy Jones, he went back to Newark and they got Ken Gibson elected, not Leroy Jones, not no revolutionaries, Ken Gibson. And all over the country, these neoliberal Democrats were getting elected. And now we're stuck with them now, and they are more loyal to the party over the people. They're more loyal to their personal ambition over the liberation of our people. So what we did in Operation Power, our organization in East New York, Operation Power stands for people organizing and working for empowerment and respect. We decided that we're gonna use the Democratic primary as a tactic to get black radicals / revolutionaries elected. And that's how my wife and I, Inez Barron and I, got elected as black radical revolutionaries in using the Democratic primary as a strategy. And we are our allegiance is to the people of our district and to Operation Power. Our biggest enemy wasn't Donald Trump or any white politicians. Our biggest enemies was the neo-colonial puppets, black puppets of the Democratic Party that come against us every election. We beat them. We wiped out the local Democratic Party club in our district. We won the city council seat. We don't go to their meetings. We don't let them put us on their petitions. We do our own. They don't raise no money for us. They are our immediate challenge. Opponents is the Black Democrats of East New York. And the machine is that black political club, Democratic club, Latino club in every one of our communities. That's what controls the local politics. We beat them. Not only did we win the city council seat and the district and the state assembly seat, we also became the female leaders, district leaders, and the male district leaders. And we had people put on the judiciary committees, the local judiciary delegates, and we won some of the county committee seats. All that was Democratic. And guess what, Brother Leroy? Our Operation Power people have all the top positions in Community Board 5. Andre T. Mitchell is the chair. He's Operation Power. We took over the local politics. That's why I can come here to you and say, we stopped gentrification. That's why I can say to you, we have 3 new $100 million schools. That's why I can say to you that in our district, we have 12,000 to 15,000 units of real affordable housing, affordable to the incomes of the people in our community. We have a new library coming in. We have built a 2-story state-of-the-art Prince Joshua Avito Community Center. Poor boy was killed by a deranged man that the mental health system failed in our community. Named it after him, state-of-the-art. And who runs that? Andre T. Mitchell and other brothers and sisters from Good Shepherd who live in our community run that center. And we can say to you, Brother Leroy, we got over $40–50 million for scholarships for our CUNY students. And we started the Black Male Initiative. We got that funded in CUNY. All of that, calling the governor for what he is. I interrupted him during his state of the state, in the mayor's face, in the speaker's face, calling for revolution and socialism and radical politics. And we still won and we still delivered. That's what we need, Brother Leroy. Liberation politics, not plantation politics.
So what you're saying is that you ran as registered Democrats on the Democrat line and operate as independents.
Totally. And they treat
And-
us as independents. We don't go to none of their meetings. They used us, we're using them. And we do that because our people, unfortunately, blindly vote Democratic. In my district, 95% of the people are registered Democrats. When we first got out of enslavement, we joined the party of the Republicans, the radical Republicans. The Democrats were more racist than the racist Republicans. It was the Democrats who wouldn't even let us in, was not against, didn't want to abolish slavery. So we went with Fred Douglass and Abe Lincoln's, who didn't free any enslaved Africans. Read Leroy Bennett's book, Forced into Glory. He didn't free nobody. Two biggest lies in America is that Christopher Columbus discovered it, lie. People were already here. He never stepped foot in America. And Abe Lincoln freed us, lie. And the Southern troops, the African troops, Harriet Tubman and them, they freed us. But anyway, that they joined that. Then in 1877 and 76, the Rutherford B. Hayes Compromise, when the Republicans and Democrats got together and they said, look, if you let us put these blacks back in place, because you remember Black Reconstruction, W. E. Du Bois wrote about it. We were governors, we were assembly people, we were in the Congress, we gave the nation free education and all of those policies. By the time we get to 76 with the Rutherford B. Hayes Compromise, they put us back in place. They got back together and said, all right, y'all let us be president and we'll put them back in place, Republicans said. And so they won, Rutherford B. Hayes won, and they made that compromise, and here came the rise of the KKK and all of the racism. They put us back in our place. By the time we get to the 1900s, we don't have nothing. We don't have nothing. The first governor was Pinchback in 1872, and then nothing. Time we get to the 1900s, we have nothing. We have segregation, we have Jim Crow. But in spite of that, we still rise. We do Tulsa. Little Africa was called first, and it was called Black Wall Street in 1923. We do Rosewood in Florida. Black communities. We don't even have that kind of control now. We don't have a black community like Tulsa and Rosewood. We don't have a black community where they own oil wells in Tulsa, oil wells. That they own the land, they own the means of production, they own all of the social cultural institutions. But that was kind of a bourgeois thing and still doing black capitalism. And so they outdid the whites, and they came in and destroyed Tulsa. They destroyed Rosewood, and they destroyed all of those 50 some odd black towns that were successful because of segregation. Integration was the worst thing that happened. Because once we integrated, we weakened the coffee, as Malcolm was said, put some milk in it and it got weak. So we lost those communities. And now if you look at in the 21st century, we're over a $1 trillion consumer market, and yet we own nothing. Nothing. We don't have nothing like those communities of 1920. Harlem, we don't own. My beloved East New York, we don't own. We stopped gentrification, did some wonderful things, but we don't own nothing.
Right.
You can't find a black community that was like Tulsa and Rosewood and Wilmington, North Carolina, owned everything. Nothing. We integrated. And
So
because of that, we got nothing.
in terms of our last few minutes together today, I'm going back to political organization. You ran for office, whatever year it was, and you did not win, although you were surprised that you didn't win because the petitions that you got were way above the number of signatures that you needed to run. I'm talking about the first election.
First election was 1997. We ran against the machine, didn't even know what we were doing. And we don't say we lost. We finished second, and 4,000 people in a two-person race, and 4,000 people voted for us. 6,000 people voted for the machine. They were so afraid of us, they had to clear the field. They had to get all the politicians on board, all of the unions on board. We didn't have any support but from CWA. That's the only union that supported us. They had everything, and we still got 4,000 votes. And to her, the incumbent 6,000. Then 4 years later, we didn't go away. We stayed out there, organized around issues, police brutality, people losing hospital closings and all that stuff. And we stayed out there, came when term limits came and the incumbent was out, then we won. We won that seat because we stayed out there. We beat the machine. And then my wife won in 2008, the assembly seat, and the rest is history. So we built a movement. We went to the tenant leaders in our public housing developments. I call them projects. I grew up in the Lillian Wall projects, but they housing developments now. And we won. We won over some of the block association presidents, a couple of local clergy. We hit the streets, grassroots leaders, grassroots people, and they said, "We're down with you, brother." We had a message of Black radical politics, a message of liberation, and also we had a plan to redo our whole infrastructure, and we did it. I said, "That park, I'm gonna get you a new park." I did it. I got them 6 new parks, did even better. And so we can win if we unite in a Black radical independent movement using the Democratic primary as a tactic and a strategy to win a local seat of power so you could deliver like we delivered in East New York. And you cannot find a Black leader who kisses parts of the anatomy that they ought not be kissing to get where they're going, that can talk about as much accomplishments in their district as we have in ours. Doesn't exist.
Your words of guidance and encouragement to our young people, many of whom are not being educated in the schools during this lockdown and not being educated even if they weren't locked down. What are your words of encouragement and guidance to our young brothers and sisters coming up in terms of leading, in terms of following, in terms of being team-oriented and people-oriented versus material-oriented?
Well, I would encourage them to follow principles, not personalities. Prioritize the people over your personal profit and personal interest. I would encourage them to study their history, read about the Black Political Convention, read about how we, not only in the electoral arena, but we as an African people have fought, and not only in this country, study Africa and the African liberation movement, and read papers like the African Burning Spear of the African People's Socialist Party, Omali Yeshitela and that group. Read the Final Call, Minister Louis Farrakhan. Read Nayaba Arende in the Amsterdam News. I have to read the whole thing, but read the Amsterdam News, Nayaba Arende's articles and some of the stuff that she talks about our liberation in the Amsterdam News articles. Read, study, study, study. Follow principles, not personalities. Get involved in collective leadership, not independent, dictatorial, personality, cult-led leadership that is making all the decisions for you so that they can enhance their personal stature so that they can cut deals with the system and be projected as the Black leader of the time. Beware of the rising star syndrome. Whenever you hear the corporate media, the Democrats talking about somebody's a Black rising star, Barack Obama, or whether it's Cory Booker, rising star, these are people they have control over, and they want you to be led by that. And even the wonderful thing that happened in Georgia, turned from a red state to a blue state, and we're still catching the blues. Don't be fooled by the Democratic Party. Biden got in. We got to stop Trump. We got to stop Trump. You were so Trumpetized. You didn't ask Biden for nothing. Yes, he's going to give you some goods now, but we changed administrators of a racist colonial capitalist system from a neo-colonial Black administration, Barack Obama, to a neo-fascist, racist, sick administration of Donald Trump, to a neo-liberal, racist administration of Biden. You better be clear about what's going on up in here. It's colonial administrators changing positions to keep capitalism in place. And they're not talking about radically changing it like Martin Luther King said, we need a radical redistribution of wealth, a revolution. Martin Luther King said that the white power structure creates, he called, manufactured Black leaders that they control and put them in place to keep the system of capitalism alive. They're not trying to talk about liberation. They're trying to keep us on the plantation.
God bless you, my brother. Thank you very much for your time. Thank your staff for setting up this interview with us. We look forward to speaking with you again in the near future. The subject matter might be, with your permission, the race that you ran for Congress.
Woo, that's a hot one. I'd love to talk about that.
All right. That's an untold story outside of your community, and it's worth
that's
telling.
true. Brother Leroy, that would be a perfect topic.
Well, we go deal with that very, 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 very soon, because for folks who don't know, they feared your voice, based on my observation, your fearless voice on the floor of Congress, dealing with matters that need to be dealt with, that others are fearful of dealing with.
Be my pleasure, Brother Leroy, and you keep speaking truth to power. We surely appreciate you.
Thank you. God bless you and your family. May God continue to bless your staff. And thanks to the audience for your participation in this program, The Wisdom Table. Thank you, engineer, Brother Doug and Brother Stu. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you all, and have a fantastic and an excellent evening.
Thank you.